Okay, hi everyone. Let me just share my screen with you and then we will get started. Okay, so so this is my assignment 2 project and presentation, and the topic that I will be working and talking about, 1 second, is emotional regulation and infant mental health, and the phase that I will be talking about is infancy. Theories and interventions will be my next topic, and more developmental theories as well, which are infancy and then intervention, conceptual foundations. And then some interventions are to start general and then more music therapy specific. And then once I get more into music therapy, I'll go even farther in with talking about emotional regulation in the NICU. Some challenges with emotional regulation in infants could be social-emotional development in the infant stage and can set the stage for all other developmental stages. Infants develop strategies to cope with intense emotions in both positive and negative ways, which will be talked about later. And then in the book, it discusses that researchers found that one of the most important elements in how an infant learns to manage strong emotions is the assistance provided by a caregiver for emotional management. So the infants are looking for support from their caregiver, and that will help them in the end. And then how development is impacted by the challenges. And then from one of my other books, it talks about separation anxiety disorder in infants. And so it talks about how the infants display developmentally inappropriate and excessive signs of anxiety concerning separation from home or from those who the infant is attached to. So if the infant is separated from their caregiver for a little bit, like for example, maybe daycare or something, their anxiety and like all the symptoms and everything and signs of their anxiety will come through because they were separated. And then symptoms of the disorder or caregiver accommodations in response to the symptoms significantly affect the infants in the family. So, with having separation anxiety disorder, the symptoms can affect both the caregiver and the infant, both now and long term. This can affect an infant's mental health either in this stage or later in life. So, although it may be a focus now with the infant, there's also going to be signs of it later in life, and it's not going to be like they can overcome it. They will most likely still like have some mental health issues later in life. Next, we'll be going more into music therapy in the NICU. And some benefits are utilizing music therapy as a part of the family-centered care has helped reduce caregiver stress and increase their confidence in parenting and interacting with their child. And that's even more of a benefit for the infant as well, because then the connection with the caregiver and the infant will be good, which will regulate the emotions more. And so, because infants can read off of the caregiver, if they're stressed, then the infants are going to become in distress. And so, the benefits for the infants are with the stress levels being decreased because of music therapy, the emotions of the infant will be regulated, which is beneficial for the infants and the caregivers. And then on the website, it talks about common goals utilized. And one of them was increased state regulation. And then with the help of music therapy, different states can be regulated, such as an emotional state for an infant, and then enhanced caregiver and infant bonding. This can go with emotional regulation and mental health as well of an infant. And this could be very positive for the infant with the bonding of being with a caregiver, which will help them. Some recommendations from researchers was that they found that one of the most important elements in how an infant learns to manage strong emotions is the assistance provided by a caregiver for emotional management. So again, the infants are looking at their caregivers to help with their management of their emotions. And then, so some emotional regulations from the textbook talks about how researchers have found that one of the most important elements in an infant, in how an infant learns to manage strong emotions is the assistance provided by the caregiver for emotions. So again, it's more about the caregiver as well as the infant, not just the infant. And some examples could be the caregiver offers food, If an infant's in distress, caregiver offers the pacifier. Caregiver may swaddle, cuddle, hug, or even rock the infant as a way of bonding as well, like we talked about as well. So these are different ways to help the infant if they're in distress. And then some research shows that a, a research team found that for all levels of infants in distress, most effective methods of soothing were holding, rocking, and vocalizing. And I did bring up other ones in the last slide, but it says up here, feeding and offering a pacifier were effective when the infant was moderately distressed, but not at times of extreme distress. So those couple were only for moderately distressed, where over here, the soothing were rocking, holding, and vocalizing are more for when the infant is in extreme distress as well. And then here are my different references, our book from class, and website for music therapy in the NICU specifically. And then this is another website, another book. And to close, I just want to talk about like how important it is to regulate an infant's emotions, and their caregiver can help as well, rather than it just being put on the infant. So it's beneficial for both the caregiver and the infant, because the mental health can last with the infant for the rest of their life. And I really enjoyed learning about like the different examples given here. The textbook was really helpful, and then learning how what examples matter, different methods of soothing were effective when they're moderately distressed and extreme distress, because it's like nice to like be able to see that you can use different soothing methods for different types of distress. But I did really enjoy learning about especially music therapy in the NICU, and how there's benefits for both the caregiver and the infant, not just the infant, and they can like kind of like bounce off each other as well. So I really enjoyed learning about that.